We are going to look at political cartoons today. And what we're going to look at here is just some of the basics of a cartoon, and then I'm going to give some practice stuff that we'll do in class, and then an assignment that'll come up later on. And really what I want to do is just show you some examples of what's in a political cartoon. First of all, a political cartoon really should have these three things. It should be about something that is current, something current in the political arena, maybe some type of bill or some type of legislation or maybe an election or something like that. We're looking at a political cartoon, so obviously it needs to deal with something the government is dealing with and something the government is dealing with now. A cartoon about a subject that was relevant 6 months ago or a year ago, it isn't a very good cartoon. At least it's not very relevant today. It needs to use symbolism, something that is representing something else. And thirdly, it should express an opinion or commentary on that issue. So the author is really expressing a point of view, and that's important. That point of view must come out. It should not be just a depiction of an event. It's not a picture, like a snapshot of something that happened, but it should be a commentary on something that happened, on a current issue or on a current political event or so on. Okay, so when you look at a political cartoon, it should have these three things. And I really think that last thing is very, very important, that you should be able to look at a cartoon and say, this is what the author is trying to say. This is the commentary. This is their opinion. I just want to show you some common symbols that are used in cartoons. So I just found examples of them. Okay, one is the elephant represents the Republican Party. Okay, also the letters GOP stands for Grand Old Party. So sometimes you'll see an elephant, sometimes you may see the word GOP or the letters GOP. All that means is it's a Republican Party. So on this example here, notice that you see we have an elephant in the back seat, that's representing the Republican Party. GOP here on his hat, again, the same thing, that's the Republican Party. And then sometimes we got to label stuff. This looks like Barack Obama, so you may not have to label President Obama, but the economy here is represented by the car. Okay, that is this is all symbolism. The economy, the car is the economy. That's symbolism. The elephant is the Republican Party. That's symbolism. If you want to talk about the Democrats, if you want to depict the Democrats in a political cartoon using a donkey, is the understood symbol of the Democratic Party. Okay, so here's an example of another one. Here's a Democrat driving, this machine. Mine went blank. I'm sorry. Steamroller. This is the Republicans. Now this is an old one because, well, actually maybe not. The filibuster. We've talked about that in the Senate. But here I just wanted to show you an example of Democrats, Republicans. There's a commentary here, what the author is trying to say. Okay, a couple examples. Okay, Uncle Sam. If you want to represent America as a whole, the nation, oftentimes we'll use Uncle Sam. There's lots of versions of this. This is just one. This is actually a pretty old one. But anytime you see Uncle Sam, we're talking about the country itself. Okay. Now this is using symbolism that each one of these traps are a war that we're in, Afghanistan, Iraq, and this was made at the time when we were thinking about maybe getting involved in Pakistan. This was a long time ago when this cartoon was made. I just wanted to show you a picture of Uncle Sam. Again, symbolism, an opinion the author is trying to get across, and sometimes it's how the person is depicted. Look how beat up Uncle Sam looks here. Okay, that's an example of, it's part of how the author is depicting America is part of the author's opinion here. And then using traps here, obviously the author is getting an opinion across. You as a reader don't have to agree with the author's opinion, but for an opinion, for a political cartoon to be really effective, it needs to have all those three things. It should be current, it should be about or use some kind of symbolism, and here we have a number of symbolism things, and it should depict some kind of opinion, some kind of statement, commentary by the author. Sometimes cartoons will be holiday related. If it's near Halloween, they may have some Halloween themes. If it's near Christmas, they might have some Christmas themes. Let me just show you a couple examples of these. Okay, here's one. This is about the debt. Here's another example: the Democratic Party, Republican Party, and then the gift, I guess, to the American people is debt. Again, it's just this one would not be put out in October. But around the Christmas season, this is you might use as the backdrop. Here's another example. This is a commentary on Congress, but really this is around Valentine's Day. So sometimes if it's around a holiday, they'll use it. Here's one on the 4th of July. Okay, again, Democrats, Republicans, sometimes they use holidays. Sometimes they'll use things in popular culture. This is an older one, but I like this one because it's using something that most people understand. American Idol, been on TV for quite a while. I know they don't have all the same people on American Idol as they used to, but we understand how American Idol works. Somebody performs, the others give some kind of critique. Okay, well, these are the Republicans critiquing President Obama. Okay, and again, this is an older cartoon, but it's a recognized symbol, it's a recognized thing, I guess, from popular culture. Sometimes you'll see it from movies or other things, but you got to be careful if you're ever drawing a cartoon to make sure it's a well understood, thing. If it's something from a movie that only a few people have seen, it might not be a good political cartoon because it's not well understood. Other kind of well-known images, sometimes they're used. This is looking at political ideology, but the Liberty Bell. We know there's a crack in the Liberty Bell. Most people would recognize that symbol. A gas tank being empty or full, again, it's a recognizable symbol that sometimes people use. Okay, and then sometimes we see these kind of cartoons. Are there any difference? This is the American voters in 2008, 2010. Notice there's no difference between this picture and this picture. Okay, the only difference is the year. So basically the author is saying that American voters were mad in 2008 when they went to the election, and they're still upset in 2010. Nothing has changed except for the election. That's about it. We're going to do some practice of these in class next, or if you're gone today, we might do some practice on when you're back, or if you happen to be gone and you miss the practice, I will quickly show these and you can go back and pause them if you want. This is one practice one. What I want you to do is describe the event or issue depicted in this cartoon. What is the author's commentary? What evidence you have that supports this? Right? So whatever you say, hey, this is what the author's trying to say, you better be able to prove it. I mean, in a sense, you better say, all right, this is representing this. Demonstrate the evidence here. And then based on the evidence here, would you conclude the author is favoring a particular party? Here is the second one we will do, a third one, and a fourth one. These are all ones that we'll practice. Some of these are newer ones. This one's a relatively recent one, relatively recent. This one's fairly old, and this one's relatively recent. But I wanted to use a few different things on there. All right, that's what we're doing in class. If you're missing class on the day that we go over political cartoons, you may be back when we do the practice stuff because we want to practice those in class.